Flava on 947.
Introducing a king. He is a man of greatness, and he carries with him the story of a man who is great. I love the fact that these stories have been able to live through time and have been strong enough for somebody to say, we need to keep telling the story. Joining us in studio is the star of Shaka iLembe, Lemogang Tsipa. He joins me in studio as an ordinary human being, but boy, oh boy, does he carry so much. Good morning, bro.
Good morning. How you doing, Mo Flava?
We had to start cheesy.
No, I understand. It makes full sense.
We often think about like how to introduce someone, right? And it's you come up with stuff and then you write scripts and whatever. But I just feel like, the simpler the better in your case, because your story is incredible. Your story is the kind of story that no introduction is fitting enough to tell.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, when you were growing up, right, what was your picture of Ushaka? Because, of course, the famous Henry Tele is the picture that even I as a youngster had to say, oh, that is actually what Ushaka looked like.
Yeah.
What was your picture?
Yeah, definitely. I think Henry Tele is probably about 80% of the image that makes up what I grew up knowing Shaka to be. I was born and raised in KZN, so there's obviously the mythological kind of thing, which you kind of imagine him more as like a mixture of Hulk, like a dark brown Hulk. Kind of, because he's like a superhero, where I come from. He's somebody that's larger than life and created the whole place, like where I grew up, because Ngakule Mpangen, which is very close to where Shaka kind of ruled and did his thing.
Sure.
So yeah, the image was a mixture of this mythological character, and the only real reference point was Henry Tele for the longest time.
Absolutely. And the big voice and the chiseled body and this colossal figure. So then let's juxtapose that with what you got to learn and maybe feel about the picture that Shaka is.
I think the first version is obviously anything that's preserved in history, especially orally. Spices do get added here and there. So I think that the main difference between then was the image I had before, as well as kind of Henry Tele's portrayal, was this stoic, impenetrable, just force to be reckoned with. But what I learned was he's a human being with flaws. He's somebody that cried, he's somebody that got bullied, he's somebody that learned to stand up for himself and made all these decisions, found a little bit of love here and there like everybody.
Sure.
So, I don't know, he just became a lot more human and within reach, because I think when preserved the way he was, he just became this almost like a Jesus kind of figure, where it's like this faultless, perfect warrior person. But yeah, the more I got to play him, the more I learned he's more like you and me.
I think congratulations to you and the entire team on the first season of Shaka iLembe. It was absolutely breathtaking. The storyline was incredible, very different from what many of us saw in terms of the original series that came out with Henry Tele. And we'll touch on that. But what a brilliant job. The awards give credence to that, but it's the feeling, right? It's the feeling. I'm a Sotho man.
Yes.
But even I am proud of kings like Ushaka, Gasenza Ngakona, and many of those that have come before them, because they paint the story of who we are and, most importantly, how we became to be. So I think brilliantly done on that in season 1. And when we discovered that this season 2, I thought, my goodness, this is a never-ending story. Tell me about the weight of having to portray a character like Ushaka Gasenza Ngakona.
The biggest thing is having to go back home, because so if I messed it up, I gotta move my mom. We gotta find somewhere to settle here.
Join the 49 that went to the US.
I was gonna be with Trump in America. The weight is so heavy because it's a legacy that lives on to this day. There's a people and a very strong, proud nation. I think the biggest nation within South Africa is the Zulus, which is which is something that he built. And they're not just like a docile people. They're people that are very proud of who they are and and fight for, what they believe in. So for
Sure.
me, the pressure was massive, especially coming in with my name and surname, Lemogang Tsipa.
Yes. No. I meant it's probably a case of before you even mention your name, you have to mention where you're from.
Yeah, literally. I remember before season 1 dropped, they kind of, before they'd put an image out of me, they'd announced my name.
Yes.
And wow, did TikTok and X take me by storm. They're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Who is this Tswana petty guy that's coming, But then a lot of people never understood the nuance of me actually being born and raised KwaZulu.
Absolutely. And that almost adds a layer, doesn't it, in terms of what it takes to be able to play certain roles and what that comes with. I mean, I don't know what could have prepared you for that. Was there a part of you maybe that felt, ooh, are people rejecting me? Yeah, I mean, I've signed the contract. I'm doing the role, but are people rejecting me already?
No, there was definitely that sense. But for me, I think the calming factor was it kind of ran a parallel with Shaka's story, because Shaka was rejected. He was rejected by his father, rejected once he came back home to take the throne, So it's kind of fighting an uphill battle, which for me, I kind of used it. I didn't want it to work against me, but there's definitely a strong sense of rejection.
Yeah. But you proved everybody wrong. That's my opinion.
Yes.
I don't know how you feel, but we'll touch on that in just a moment. I have to talk about getting out of your comfort zone, and I'll tell you why. Because I can imagine, Lemu, that when you are playing a character, that's what happens. There was a scene in season 1 where Shaka was a young boy now, sort of growing up, and he was almost trying to go out there and find himself. His father had already said, Hamba.
Yeah.
And he was alone in the wilderness, and there was a snake.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of went over him, and then he carried the snake, and I'm like, oh hell no!
Yeah.
If they're going to be snakes, you gotta put it in the contract first. Tell me about some of the experiences that gave you a sense of discomfort, where you had to be taken out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, for me, the snakes are my comfort zone. It's a very strange thing to say, but I mean, growing up in KZN, there's a lot of snakes.
Yes, that's like snake capital.
Yeah. I'm the only boy back home, so when my dad was gone, I was the one called to kill the snakes and get rid of them. So I lost that fear from a very young age.
Whoa, what's the biggest snake you've ever had to deal with?
Well, pythons are there,
word.
but we not to get rid of. I think the most dangerous was probably a boomslang.
Whew.
Yeah, those things move quite fast, and they're pretty dangerous.
You should have been in the army.
I could have. I'll shoot a movie about that.
Yeah, but I would imagine there are a lot of things that had to really get you out of your skin. On playing this character.
For sure. I think one of the main things was weirdly enough, the weather.
Yeah,
was a crazy factor. I mean, we shoot predominantly in winter just because most of the filming is done in Johannesburg, and winter has the least rain. And we're so deep in this farm that when it does rain, trucks stop, everything logistical can't move. So having to wear a bare shoe at -1 or 0 degrees, and the director's telling you, no, you're in the middle of KZN, it's summer, just pretend. And for me, growing up in a place which averages around 28 degrees
there
Celsius,
is no winter in KZN.
you understand?
Yeah.
So it's such a shock to the body every time you have to come to work or do even a scene in the water where you have to just pretend to be playing. There was a scene I did with Normal, we shot in the Drakensberg. We were playing, I think it's at the start of Ep 10 or something. We're playing in the water very casually, but literally up the stream, the top layer was ice.
Oh my word.
So I think for me, that's my main thing. Other than that, everything else is quite,
So I'm assuming like most athletes, you can do an ice bath with your eyes closed, easy walk in the park.
If there's an invoice attached to it, I can consider it strongly.
One of the themes that I really enjoyed, and there were many in the storyline, especially in season 1, in terms of the story, Shaka Senzanga is the relationship he had with his dad. And the reason why it connected with me is because it's something that is true to me, looking at, how I grew up. And yes, I was raised by somebody that is my father, but my biological father is somebody that I never really got to know really well. And it's the story of a lot of us in South Africa. What was the thing that stood out for you in terms of his story, Shaka?
I think obviously a lot of the rejection from the father and the lack of love is what shaped him to be the man that he is. I think a lot of people that do grow up in that situation especially when the rejection is in your face. It's not hidden. Like the guy goes out of his way to let you know that you're rejected. You kind of get this chip on your shoulder, and you have this point to prove. And I think that, along with the prophecy, is what really fueled him to want to conquer and achieve all the things that he did. And I think also the support from his mother, because his mother also wasn't just an ordinary woman who, in those days, women didn't really have a voice. She was a woman with a very powerful voice.
Sure.
And let her opinion out. So I think those two things combined really fueled him to become the man that had the drive to be remembered in history as we do.
Something else that was quite powerful is, the idea that Shaka didn't just manifest. There were people that came, before him and had an integral part in his life. One storyline I really enjoyed is that of Udingiswayo.
Yes.
I thought that was really powerful, and also a beautiful way to learn about this person that our history that we learn at school doesn't do justice to, right? Tell me about your interpretation of that, the kind of people that he was surrounded by that made him who he is.
I think, let's start with Dingiswayo. I think Dingiswayo, the reason they connected, he saw a lot of himself in Shaka, because he's heir to the throne, as Shaka was. He was rejected by his father, kicked out of the kingdom, and had to go through adversities in order to come back to claim the throne. So I think when he sat with a young Shaka and heard his story, he saw himself back in the day, and because he already was on the path of being a great king, was able to mentor him like that. Another person that played an integral role was Umkabayiga Jama, the kingmaker, which was his aunt. And a little backstory to her. King Jama had wives and had many kids, but didn't have an heir. And Mkabai actually went out of her way to to bring her to the royal king. And then that was the person that brought the first king. And then which is Shaga's father,
Sure.
Senzangakona.
Sure.
And then obviously when Shaga's turn came, she also helped him out. Maybe you're not allegedly planned an assassination of Uskujana.
I mean, she was there.
Yeah. Even after Shaga's reign, when Shaka became problematic, she was also part of the team that removed him and placed Udingan in. So I think she's a very integral person in the Zulu kingdom and Zulu history, and in creating kings and allowing these opportunities and being able to see potential and creating,
But it also tells me that it's a reminder that there are very important people in our lives.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not your mother or your father. It's other people that play an incredible role in shaping you into becoming who you are. We'll talk about that in a moment, because at I think it was the season 2 premiere, right? Your +1.
Yes.
Is one of those people.
Definitely.
We'll talk about that in just a moment. Lemo, I have to talk about your +1 at the premiere of season 2, your grandmother.
Yes.
Now, balance me real quick. She's 92.
Yeah. You saw how good she looks?
I was like, whoa.
I'm hoping for that those genes come down on me. It'll give me a long career.
There are obviously a lot of people in your life that you've made proud.
Yeah.
She's one of them, isn't she?
Definitely. I think, in season 1, I brought my mother. So I felt it only right, season 2, let me bring, because it's like I brought Nandi in season 1, manjing let
That's exactly where I'm going with this.
Yeah, so she's the lady that gave birth to my father, and she's the only grandparent that I have that is alive.
Sure.
And she has been my only grandparent my whole life. Like, I don't know anybody else as a grandparent, so I obviously have a very, very deep love for her.
Sure.
And she's extremely proud. At first, walking into this career, she was one of those who didn't really understand what I was doing. They thought, I'd be suffering, things would be tough. And of course, I went through that phase. But now, praise be to God, we're in the good part of things. We've made it over the storm.
And you're playing somebody of significance in our society, of extreme importance in Ushaka Senzangakona. So I'm sure she's thinking, no, it's fine. And I'm, at least.
Yeah, I mean.
You've had other roles, I think it was in Reika.
Yes.
Season 2?
Yes.
I mean, you were a killer there, dog.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm a killer in here as well.
No, but you're a different
Just more dignified.
You're a different kind of killer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Sure.
I think, yeah, it having being such an important role. I think, especially being such an important Zulu character,
Sure.
was also kind of a 180, because I remember in my stories of when my father left Pretoria to go study Namazulu. It was like a whole thing. So I think now it makes sense.
Yes.
They're like, oh, okay, I guess it kind of paid off.
Your parents moving to KZN in Mpangeni basically paved the way for you to play this role.
100%.
I mean, that's power.
100%. If I grew up Kopitori, there was no way.
Maybe you would have been on the river or something.
Yeah. It could have been something else. Or on Queen Muchaji, I could have maybe.
Exactly.
finessed.
At a personal level, popularity. How do you deal with that? Because everybody knows you. I've got a couple of my colleagues here.
Yeah.
They're standing outside, and these are people that admire the work you do. Was there anything that prepared you for that? To open yourself up now to say, whoa.
Yeah, so my I wasn't always popular. So the history-wise, my dad was a pastor as well as a science teacher. And he'd often go around either preaching or going to teach science in all these different schools around, and sometimes they'd sit in 4,000 seaters and
Sure.
So I've been used to crowds, I've been used to people, and I was always like a small kid walking around. So then people are like, oh, you're the guy, you're the son of Tsipa, whatever. So I've been used to the attention firsthand. But I think once the digital age got in, and all these TikTok things and Twitters and all that is kind of new to me. But interacting with crowds of people that are showing love is something that I grew up quite used to.
Yeah, of course. I mean, your face is everywhere, billboards, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, it's profound. So now we're in season 2, and you were telling me about body aches. Why is your body sore?
Oh, I'm preparing for a show. I can't give the details, but I'm back in the gym, trying to look like the guy that people are seeing in season 2. Because I go on and off. Like when it's time to work, I get into shape, but it's so difficult to stay as a scorer, and also don't want to be the buff guy the whole time.
And you were never always that guy.
Yeah, and also the guys that are that guy, every show they do, they're forced to take off their shirts. So I want a producer to look at me and be like, I think you should keep the shirt on.
So you don't want to be typecast as this chiseled guy. I mean, Shaka looks like he's chiseled from a rock somewhere in KZN.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's also tough. I mean, the habit and the discipline of eating correct the whole time.
Sure.
Not drinking nice things, not eating fast food. It's something I don't know if I can commit to for my whole life, but certainly for whatever project that's needed, I can.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking about all the cast members. I mean, you've worked with incredible people. What's that been like? All these well-known faces, some fresh new faces with immense talent, etc.
I'm a massive fanboy. Like I remember the first reading I had with Nomzamo. I'm such a fan, and she was like, "I'm such a fan." I'm like, "No, you wait. I'm a fan of you. You don't even understand."
And she's your mama at that. It's like,
yeah.
Couldn't you have been my wife or something?
No, she's good as my mom. She's good. I nickname her Beyonce because that's what I feel she is. She's the Beyonce of Africa. She's just that queen.
Sure.
Incredible person. Umam's Tacharoch as well. I'm a massive fan. Dawn Tandega King, massive fan. And I mean, the list is endless. Sure. Wise Man Mngube for me was one of my most favorite actors, and I've always dreamed of working with him.
Sure.
And even though we don't really directly have scenes where we, kind of interact because we're enemies in the show.
Yeah.
Getting to work and watching him work is an incredible, blessing. And for me, I'm just so privileged to be in the position that I am in, that the people that I really look up to and am inspired by, I get to work with on a daily basis.
I had to extend our interview because there's no way we let a king just waltz in and out of here in 2 minutes. But I do have to wrap it up. All the best for season 2.
Thank you.
Based on the first episode, I think we're in for a heck of a ride.
Oh, you've seen nothing. It's going down.
I already saw, some really gruesome scenes.
It's going to get a little worse. It's going to... This was the introduction. This was the cup of tea before the meal.
Absolutely. But I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm super proud of the entire team and the way they're narrating the story. And I'm super stoked that you are just elevating ep after ep. And a job well done to you in carrying this role that is so important. So thank you for that, and good luck with that. I know you've been dabbling in music. And there's talks of an album.
Yes.
What's the story there before you go?
So my friends and I, well, my team and I, which are my friends, we've been working on music for a while, a couple of like 4 years, and the whole thing is like being established as an actor. How do I present myself in the music space? So we've been working, worked over 500 songs, and then we eventually found a sound and created a new genre.
Wow.
So
okay.
you guys are in for something brand new, never seen before.
Lovely.
Couple of really fire features. I can say Mbuso Khoza's on the project. I can say Mnewa's on the project.
Wow.
And a couple of other names, but I can't. Those ones are.
Okay.
I'm gonna save them.
But there's an album coming out before the end of 2025.
Yeah. I'm just letting the show. I don't want to confuse people. Where halfway people are like, "Why is Shaka rapping?" So I'm gonna let the show, I'm gonna let the show kind of play out, and as soon as the show is done, we're gonna start the rollout process of the album.
Lovely stuff, Lemo. Sky's the limit.
Yes, sir.
All the best of luck in the future. We're looking forward to the rest of season 2. You've done an absolutely incredible job. So shout out to you and the rest of the team.
Thank you so much.
Mo Flava on 947.